Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Hopefully everybody's doing great, and welcome to another movie review. It's been a while I've done one of these, so let's get going. Now, the old guard. It was all right. It was all right. If you've checked any of my trailer reactions, a bit of a worry that I had for the film that it looked like the the action scenes were actually gonna be great, and the story itself was not gonna be great. Simply put it that way. Now, I was actually surprised of how some of the elements are actually put together well enough compared to what the trailer actually showed us. So the first thing I really enjoyed actually was the concept itself. So basically there's this group of people who've been living for a long time. They're basically immortal and they've seen stuff, they've been through a lot, and all of a sudden there's this new recruit. They found out there's another one that actually has the same ability as theirs, and they recruit her, and that's where kind of the movie starts. As I said, the concept itself is good. The execution, though, is not. Now, Charlie's characters and even like the supporting cast, they're all good. They do a great job at what they're given. Especially Charlie's. I think her character is actually the most fleshed out. Her story is actually given the most meat out of all of the characters, and we understand at some point they also show like what she's been through and how actually throughout history she actually influenced a lot of the culture, a lot of what happened, and how it actually affected the present. So there are those elements that are actually great. The action sequences are good at times. Now, that does not mean that the stunt work is not good. The stunt work, you can actually tell they did a lot of work on it. So I all respect to everyone who actually were involved in that, because you can actually tell there's work done, and work done in a really good way. But the problem actually is that the way it picturized is not good. There are times where it's trying to do this one shot, something like what the John Wick series did, but the problem is it did a lot better because it let the sequences actually play out. There were not a lot of cuts, there were a lot of wide shots, and you actually see what's happening. Here, what's going on is that even though the fight, let's say, it's trying to be this one-shot fight, but there are a lot of cuts and a lot of close-up, very unnecessarily done, and it makes the action sequences, even though they could be great, not as enjoyable as you would want them to be. And it's frustrating because you know the stunt work that is put into all of this, and the work that has been done is actually really great. And there's this one sequence in like the first act between like the new recruit and Charlize Theron's character, and that is actually, even though there are some gunfights and like sword fights, they actually use a couple of times swords and axe. Uh, you would think those are the sequences that would stand out. It's actually the sequences hand-to-hand combat at the more like at the first act of the film that actually stands out the best, because it is the one with the least amount of cuts, and you actually see more of the action. You see like these longer takes that you can actually enjoy, and you can actually tell what's going on. Other than that, the story itself is actually the problem. The one good thing it does is, though, it is its own film. It's not trying to build this universe. So usually, these days you see that, oh, you like The Mummy, for example, when it came out, instead of trying to be in its own film, it was trying to set up a whole universe. And the good thing here is that it stays away from that. Even though towards the very end there's a hint of a sequel, it stays away from all of that, minus one sequence that happens more towards like the end of the first act. It felt like that it's completely out of there. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it because the more I say about that sequence, it kind of reveals something towards the end. So when you see it, you'll kind of know it. And the moment that sequence happens, and it's with the new recruit, it's something that she sees. You kind of tell, oh, they're probably gonna set up, because after that, they never touch on it, and that's another problem, that some of these elements in the story, the the explanations and the way the rules work are not very clear. Uh, why are they immortal, or why can't they be immortal? Why do they die, or why they live longer? What are the set of rules? They are never explained clearly. And I think in a movie like this, it needed to be. It needed to be clear what are the set of rules, when can they die or when cannot they die. It was very much needed. Another thing is that, as I said, this movie does feel like two movies. Uh, More around like a half of a movie, it's one thing, and then it kind of goes into a whole different thing. I do think that if they focused on an element of this, just, hey, there's this new recruit, and she's basically us, because these people, everybody else, they've been through a lot, they've seen a lot, but this new recruit, it's basically us. We're the outsiders that are looking through the story from the present, trying to understand what's going on. If they would have just left it at that and then go to other directions in the next film, I think it would have been better. Basically, the first half of the movie is this new recruit and them trying to tell her that, hey, this is her life now and you can't really go back. And plus, the second half of the movie, it becomes this science experiment. I'll just keep it at that. Basically, there's a lab, there's some people want there to test them and all that, and then it goes into this whole other direction. And another element to all of this is that these people have seen a lot. They've been through a lot, had a lot of fights, a lot of battles. At times, how easily some of them can be defeated, actually, I did not buy it. It was just like, oh, the story just wants them to get into a situation. I just did not buy that they would easily get into a situation where they would just get captured that easy. There's a lot of in the movie that is actually good, but I just don't think at the end of the day, when everything is kind of put together, it's a cohesive film. So at the end, I'm going to rate it 5 out of 10. I do think there's a lot of potential, and I do think going forward, if they do make a second one, which they kind of hinted at, it can really benefit from what the lore itself has and what the story can be going forward. But the movie on its own, I don't think it was very well put together. I do think a lot of the plot points just became cliche. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the movie. If you did not enjoy, let me know. And with that, hopefully you have a great weekend, and I will catch you all later. Ta-ta.